Greetings, greetings, greetings. I'm your host, Jamal Brown. You are tuning in to another show here at the Gist of Freedom radio show. Again, I am your host, Jamal Brown, aka Mr. Black 365, and I am excited to have a very accomplished guest here in the Black History University with us today. He is none other than Mr. Charles Tucker Jr. Esquire. Mr. Tucker, how are you doing this fine afternoon?
All is well, Mr. Brown. Thanks for having me.
Certainly.
Pleasure to be here.
Certainly. The pleasure is all ours. Again, you are tuning in from the great state of Maryland, right outside of DC. Is that correct?
I am. I definitely am.
Awesome. All right. I mentioned those three letters after your name, ESQ, Esquire. That tells me that you have done quite a bit of schooling.
A few years, give or take.
No doubt. Tell us about your schooling and how it is that you became to be an Esquire, an attorney.
Sure. Well, I actually born and raised in Hollis, Queens, and grew up wanting to be. I remember reading a book as a child on the life and story of John F. Kennedy, and I kind of missed the chapters where it identified him as being this wealthy figure and that you needed X amount, to run for president. But I wanted to be like him.
Friends and connections and money and all that stuff, yeah?
Right. I missed all that. So I was really training myself to be a lawyer and wanted to, use my law degree in a way to effectuate change. And be a positive influence in my community. I went to St. John's University, graduated magna cum laude, and went on to decide. In fact, I was scared of law school even after graduating undergrad. I heard it was a bad thing. So I decided to get my degree in public administration. So I got a master's in public administration. And I went on to get a certificate in international relations. And I was very intrigued around governments and international studies and the like. And I used that leverage, that degree to get a scholarship to go to law school. So I remember specifically that I actually had a conversation with the dean of the law school and asked him, would they be willing to take me? I had to compete for a certain number of scholarships to get in. And I remember, spending that summer before admittance into law school, competing for the remaining slots. And I was blessed enough to get in, and the rest is history. So I'm a triple alum from St. John's University, and I say that proudly.
No doubt. I didn't anticipate the conversation to go in this direction, but something just sparked my interest. You said that you sort of had some reticence, some internal pushback. There's a new term floating out there called the imposter syndrome, where someone thinks that they're not supposed to be in a certain place. Now, you said you graduated magna cum laude. Why is it that you didn't feel springboarded, empowered to make that next step?
Well, good question, Mr. Brown. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have any lawyers in my family. And a lot of the ones that were in my circle or I knew of were not necessarily willing to sit down or offered the opportunity to sit down with me. So to me, it was like an unknown. You sometimes, we fear the unknown. So I didn't know. But I was never, going to shy away from the challenge. I just thought that, well, let me get this degree here because I think I could do this. And it gave me the confidence that if I could finish this, I could definitely do that. So I used the master's degree as a platform, and it was the best decision I made. It gave me not only the confidence, but some additional knowledge. That master's degree to public administration was, I thought, dynamic. There were elected officials in the class or people who were in administrative positions on the mayor's cabinet at the time, people who were administrators in public New York City agencies who were getting the degree, and just to sit down at a table and learn with them, really gave me the insight and foresight to say like, oh yeah, law school is just another door to walk through, but to have that same gumption right out of undergrad, I can honestly say I didn't have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Now, in law school, what was your particular area of focus or interest, and sort of how does that translate to what it is you do now on the day-to-day, and what is it that you do now on the day-to-day?
Sure. Well, first of all, I am the managing partner of the Tucker Group, LLP, with offices in the DMV area as well as New York City, where I'm born and raised. And I've been, I've built this firm from the ground up, formed it with my partner, Carlos Moore, out of Grenada, Mississippi. Here in the DMV area, I do employment law is large what we do. Good percentage of what we do. We do criminal defense, and I do little family, and I do a lot of representation of small businesses in litigation. I'm a trial attorney by trade, so I do trials,
Okay.
but I only do trials when all is failed.
Okay. You sort of the big bat, if I'm using a baseball analogy, huh?
Absolutely.
When things get gritty, we need a run. That's when they call you in, huh?
That's when they call me in. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But in law school, to answer your question, I actually went in thinking I was going to be a corporate attorney, and my experiences in law school were kind of tailor-made to that. I entered, I guess, my second year, and I was doing these trial competitions, and I was doing fairly well. And some of the top students in the school at the time who were in those trial competitions, I was always placing in the top 2 and top 3 in those competitions. So it gave me some insight that I might be good at this.
I'd be good at this, huh?
They may have to rethink this corporate stuff, because I need to be in somebody's courtroom. And I then started applying for offices, that were offering, and at that time, and I still think this is true, any student coming out of law school, if you want to do trials quickly, you need to be in a prosecutor's or defense, legal aid office. I believe at the time that, to me, even back then, we're talking about late 90s, right around the era of the O.J. Simpson trial, that if you wanted to effectuate change, sometimes it's better to be in the position of change rather than on the other side. Defense, we do need quality defense attorneys. But at that time, I did want to experience the ability to see what it's like to be a prosecutor, to have charges against an individual who I know didn't do it based on my investigation, and be able to have the ability to say those charges will be dismissed. And I think that was pivotal for my career. I did wind up I did get like several offers from district attorneys' offices around the country. And in my last year, I actually wound up taking a class in that final spring semester. And the instructor happened to be the district attorney for the Kings County, Brooklyn at the time. And his name was Charles. So I'm like, he can't be half bad. And it didn't dawn on me that this individual was also the main man for Kings County. Because I lived in Queens. I didn't know who he was.
No connection, yeah.
No connection. And literally, it was a chance car accident one Saturday morning. The class was on a Saturday morning, and one of my classmates was supposed to put on a mock trial. It was her turn, and I was part of her team, but I wasn't the number one seat. And so the instructor, Mr. Hines, was saying we need an adjournment. I said, no, we don't. Give me 5 minutes. I can learn her part. And
I'm ready.
And he's like, are you sure? And I did, and I performed well, and I found out after the fact that people were taking this class, because you got to think it's Saturday morning and there's 32 students in the class. Something's up.
Some type of
But
care. Yeah.
yeah, the rumor was that he hired right out of the class.
Oh, wow.
So at the end of I remember the last class, he told everybody to be ethical in their practice and have a nice life. No offers.
Wow.
And when I came walking out, going to my car, it was a rainy Saturday. He had his umbrella, and he was waiting for me and a colleague of mine. And he said, "Mr. What do you want to do with your career?" And I said, be prosecutors. And he's like, "Give my secretary a call on Monday," and the rest is history.
Wow.
I spent 6.5 years in that office, and it was, I've been practicing going on 22 years. It was the best 6.5 years I've spent as an attorney.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, let me ask you what may be a tough question or a sticky question. When we see Black prosecutor, some folks in our community say, "Hey, why be on that side?" We see the pushback with Kamala Harris as she's running for a VP. Some folks are, a bit chided, a bit jaded about her, being on sort of that side of things for a portion of her career. Did you ever have any internal conflicts, and sort of how did you work through that?
Great question. Oh, absolutely. People wanted to know, why did I choose that? And again, one of the reasons why I chose it, because I wanted to be in a situation where, there were a bunch of times where, the charges will come in where I'm in the early case assessment bureau. I'm one of the assistants assigned to that bureau on a particular day, and the charges would come in, and then I asked the arresting officer, "Well, why was this person arrested?" "Well, they were huddling on the corner." "Okay, well, are there any other facts?" And having no other facts, I was able to tell my supervisor, that's not a crime, and those charges would be dismissed. Where if I didn't, I believe if I didn't have that recognition or background, I could have been like, okay, just blindly and then I went ahead and started doing sex crimes, at a time where that division, the law and order SVU stuff was still a novel concept. And, until you start doing, those serious cases, those special victim cases. I remember doing a case where a Jamaican mother was raped in the morning at about 4:30 a.m. on her way to work, and we caught the individual who had the defendant who had accosted her, and the facts were she was on her way to work, having just came back from from Jamaica, from burying her son, and he wanted people to believe that she wanted to do, the act on the sidewalk in a rainy day on her way to work. So, you want to be on those types of cases to be able to add some compassion and say, no, you helped your community safer and to get the right person, not just a person.
Absolutely. I appreciate that answer. Now, you said that you built your particular practice from the ground up. I'm always intrigued by those personal stories, those untold stories, those things that if this didn't happen, things might not have worked out exactly how they are today. I just got done reading a book on John H. Johnson, the creator of Jet and Ebony magazine. He talked about needing $500 for a loan, and he had to use his mother's furniture as collateral for that $500 loan. I just got done reading another book about A.G. Gaston, a millionaire from Alabama. He talked about how he lived with his mother, and he sold her chicken and meatloaf lunches to his co-workers in order to build up some seed money to get things going. Share with us, if you would, one of those stories, one of those things like, I had to go through this in order to get to where I am today.
Great question. Well, I mean, I would have to take it back to my childhood. I grew up in a very humble beginning. My parents weren't millionaires, and to use the term low income is an over exaggeration.
Overstatement, huh?
Right. When you start thinking about a family with five, it was five of us, so, powdered milk and government cheese was a staple in our house. And, a lot of the luxuries that my own children enjoy today is not something I can recall. I didn't have a bathroom in my room. I can recall not even having a TV, and not until I was like 12 or 13 years old. And for the kind of basics that I probably wanted to enjoy as a kid, I literally would go out on the weekends and pick cans to kind of put those in a machine. And I say that not to, draw any, somebody feeling sorry for me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that existence. I appreciate, those times. And nobody asked me to pick cans. And, people would probably, there was a lot of my boys who was laughing at me, but I knew my parents didn't have it and I didn't want to be without. I wanted some baseball cards. I wanted to have some change to get, some cookies if I wanted. And I didn't want to put my parents in a position to have to tell me no because they didn't have it, or to make them feel like they needed to compromise something to give it to me.
Yeah.
And then there was times that I wanted to have, name brand sneakers, and my parents just weren't able to do it. So I had a paper route and would have to get up in the morning at 5 a.m. and deliver papers before going to school. I'd like to have slept in, but that wasn't my staple.
Wasn't luxury,
and it is, but it gave me the character to say that no, I can open a firm, a Black-owned firm, with my bare hands, and say this from this office, I can build something that is going to be a household name, or at least recognized across the nation, and it's doable. And I don't need to be a backstabber. I don't need to be envious of anyone. I don't need to, create a situation where there's animosity. No, I can be in a situation where I can train the next generation of young attorneys, come in and grow and establish themselves. So, a legacy and establish this firm as a formidable force on the East Coast and beyond. And I think in a short period of time, I was able to do that. But, the hard work and grit is something I learned early on as a kid.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Going with that idea of being widespread and spreading across and sharing your story, what have you, in preparation for this interview, the term the five brothers came up time and time again when searching your name. Tell us a little about the five brothers and what that's all about.
I think that's just God at work. I mean, he has plans. He opens doors and no man can shut. And that's what the word says, and it's true. Right. We literally that's myself, my partner, Carlos Moore, our good friend and brother, and our partner in the Cochran firm, Travis, and his best friend, Dr. Neville Campbell. We were all assembled at the Bellagio for a conference last year. And, we had met.
Conference of attorneys, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. And you all are all attorneys?
Yes.
Okay.
All attorneys.
So I just want to make sure our listening audience.
Three attorneys, mm-hmm. and a doctor.
Okay.
He practices rehabilitational health, physical therapy. Okay. He calls it pain management. So
gotcha. Okay.
And so we all assembled together to support each other and network together. We met a young attorney there. His name is Philip Basmore, who had just finished graduating and had just taken his bar. And so we literally posed for a picture together. And it was kind of ideal. We was at five brothers assembled at the Bellagio together, and they were all dressed up. I was casually dressed, and I wasn't even ready to take a picture. And of
No,
course,
hold on. Let me stop you there. I saw the picture, but you was looking sharp. You were looking sharp too, brother. You know.
But anyway, I wasn't on their level. But of
Okay.
course, that's the picture that went wild on the web or whatever. And I'm like, are you kidding me? All the times that I'm dressed, that's the picture that goes crazy. So, at one point it went up to like 50,000 views, and it was up to 100.
Wow.
And I think at some point it hit 200.
Wow.
And I'm like, if it hits 250 or better, maybe we should think about doing something again. And it did. So we started thinking that maybe we should put pen to paper. And it's funny because I've known my partner maybe about 10 years. We've been partners going on 5 years. And I've recognized him as a young man up and coming in the legal field. I've gotten to know Travis Buchanan, practicing attorney out of Las Vegas. And we actually, when me and Carlos joined the Cochran family, we encouraged him to come along. Dr. Neville Campbell, we brought him in just through his ability to connect on the personal injury side of what we do. And it was the four brothers, and we met Philip, and it became the five brothers.
Right.
But as men do, we really don't share our stories.
Right.
Now, my point that I was making, me and Carlos were partners, and I really didn't know his story. I knew he was from Grenada, Mississippi. I went to Grenada, Mississippi. Not a lot of people go to Grenada, Mississippi. But, I went to Grenada, Mississippi. I've gone to church with my brother and fellowship with his family. But I still honestly had not known his story. We literally formed our partnership, our legal practice. Both attorneys formed our legal partnership on the most up-to-date device that you could think of.
Smartphone. Oh, wow.
And maybe like 70 to 80 text messages later, we formed our partnership, the Tucker Group.
Okay.
But this 4 or 5 brothers coming together was basically when we thought this is something we should do, we started texting each other our stories. And, Carlos went first. He was, raised by a single mom and had 2 jobs. He really didn't know his dad. I didn't know that. And how he didn't get a chance to meet his dad until he turned 13 or 14 years old. And, it kind of had an impact on him. And I believe his dad died slightly after. And, the book will share more. And then, each one of us, had similar stories that kind of made an impact that, wow, this would be an awesome thing to kind of put to print to allow, young Black men and women to understand that we can have different experiences. We can come from different backgrounds, face different challenges, but yet we can still succeed. There's success that runs in our race, and we should be Black and proud.
Beautiful statements, beautiful words. So the book, is there a release date? When
November 17th. November 17th.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'll be looking to get my hands on a copy of that. Now, is there any other collaboration on the horizon with you all 5 beyond the book?
Yeah, well, we're thinking about putting something else together. We're ready. We're excited about the launch in and of itself. While everybody was, buckled down in this pandemic, we was busy getting this book out. And I believe in every situation, when there's in every, no matter how bad the situation looks, there's an opportunity to do something great. And we believe that this book was that. So everybody was locked down. It gave us an opportunity to kind of really, focus and get this out. And I believe it's a product that we can be proud of. But we are looking to, collaborate and do some other things in the near future. Carlos just won NBA president-elect, for the National Bar Association this past summer. Beautiful. So his year starts in next year. I am chief counsel of that, and be leading his effort to ensure we get his agenda through.
Beautiful, beautiful. And now let people know where they can find the book once it debuts.
it should be released on Amazon on November 17th and coming right to them.
Nice. Beautiful, beautiful. Now let's advance the conversation here. In just a few short weeks, or really we'll count down the days, we have a presidential election on the horizon. We've heard, unless you've been under a rock, all sorts of talk about voter suppression, the cancellation of votes, all these things. It harken us back to a very, very dark period in our past of everything from poll taxes to literary tests and all sort of things. Folks are saying that the black vote is important, and the black vote, there may be some attempts to silence that. Now, tell us a little bit about what voter suppression is and what we can do to ensure that we do not fall victims to that sort of practice of voter suppression.
I think voter suppression, I mean, when you think voter suppression, the history of this country and America, it's been part and parcel of, this nation's history, the attempt to silence and put down the black vote, not even taking into account, the attempts to take away the right to vote, period, but more importantly, to disenfranchise us. When you think voter suppression, it's really the strategy used to influence the outcome of an election by discouraging or preventing specific groups of people, mainly our people, from voting. And it's kind of distinguished from political campaigning in that campaigning attempts to change the likely voting behavior by an individual, but this is targeted and it attempts to suppress, take away the opportunity of the African American vote, which in large part, the masses understand that, the majority understand that this effort, if it's not stopped, if the black vote is suppressed, they will have won. So it's a mass attempt to influence elections across the nation. When you think about taking away an individual's right to vote, changing the laws, changing requirements to make it harder for a person to actually vote, such that it flies in the face of the Constitution. It's something that we should all pay attention to, but more importantly, we should all be recognizing that that's what this has come to, right? They can no longer fall back and count on that we're not going to vote. They now are more scared of us voting and how we vote. So the statistics show that more often than not, African Americans side with the Democratic Party. So in that, it becomes a powerful tool. So they try to suppress that because in a lot of states and localities and jurisdictions, this vote, when operating as a block, can actually influence and change the election in a lot of respects. And that's the fear. So therefore, the fear becomes an effort, a large-scale effort to suppress that vote.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What tips and tricks would you have or advice for people to ensure that their vote is counted and that they are represented in this practice of civic engagement?
Right. Well, it's up for everyone to stay engaged, stay informed, understand the different nuances that your individual state may have. I'm from New York, and I just recently, caught on that New York had a registration requirement for a person to vote, and those little nuances are not done to make sure or help a person to vote. It's done to block a vote, to make it harder. And you think about it, in these times, especially in this COVID environment where health and safety should be a concern.
Distance. Right.
We shouldn't be adding roadblocks or creating hindrances for a person to vote we should be looking at ways to make it easier for a person to vote. The whole idea of voter fraud is foolishness. It's not based on reality or fact. In history and percentages show that voter fraud is less than 2% and almost non-existent. But yet, time and time again, you hear our president speaking, and almost trying to influence the masses that voter fraud is going to be rampant, and or trying to challenge the validity of an election. We have a duty to stay informed, to understand, to do whatever is necessary to exercise our vote, whether it's a mail-in ballot, if there is any requirement to register to get that ballot, to get that vote exercised, we need to. And need to be vigilant at the polls to make sure that, that anything we see, that we're not doing anything to threaten our safety. There's safety in numbers, Mr. Brown. And I believe if we show up in numbers, Black and proud, our voices will be heard and our votes will be counted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate those words. I actually want to take it back just a little bit. You mentioned at the top of our conversation of seeing JFK, of seeing, these other figures in history. I don't get the sense that you said you didn't see any family members who were, going down that path at that time or at any point during your sojourn to where you are now. Who are some Black individuals from the past who participated in law and or politics that served as examples, that served as motivation for you and helped you become inspired to take the path that you've chosen?
Great question. Zachary Carter, one of the U.S. attorneys out of New York, is his name rings a bell. And I joined as a young Black prosecutor early on in my career. I joined the National Black Prosecutors Association, which were Black prosecutors from across the country who, were doing big things across the nation, and really gave me a good insight that I wasn't part of a small minority, but there was a large group of us across the nation serving, the public servant, being the public servant and doing a great job of it. So collectively, they were all some of my role models of what, I wanted to establish myself. And, personally, there were some individuals in the DC office who had mentored me and kind of, formed a relationship with me. And like, okay, this is something that I'm going to stay connected to and make sure that I became an example to others.
Awesome. What advice, we're winding down the conversation here. What advice would you give? I have an 18-year-old myself. He's currently just enrolled in a 4-year university. And someone doesn't know his path, doesn't know direction. He's thinking psychology, he's thinking law, he's thinking politics. He's, a little scattered. What advice would you give to a young person who is beginning their education at a 4-year to again, chart their path forward?
I believe the undergrad experience is a ticket to the movies, so to speak.
Okay.
Right? And you really don't know the movie. You don't really know what's about, the movie's about until you get in the movie, right? And when you leave the movie, graduating undergrad, you just have that experience, right? You're not an expert in anything. You haven't gained any additional knowledge, but it gives you an insight that there's a world outside of your world. Whereas you don't go through that experience, you really just see your own world, having graduated high school, thinking everybody's, you're going to be with these people forever. They're your friends forever,
right.
And that's it. But college, and especially having the opportunity to go away, you start thinking, you see these people from different parts of the country, and you start to think that, maybe I could do a career in psychology, and it just gives you, like, the light bulb comes on. right? But it can't stop there. So now that it's on, now it's your job to think, what can you do now that the light is on? Now that you know there's a world bigger for you. So to me, I would suggest everybody, now you need a second degree to kind of figure out what you're going to do. And then when you go on, you get a master's degree. Now you become a master at something where you could actually teach, because I started teaching right out of grad school. And I've been teaching as a law professor. I've been teaching for the last 22 years. I teach political science, government and politics, and, influencing young minds. And then with that third degree, now you have an opportunity to really make a career of something, whether it's medicine, law, psychology. I almost did psychology too.
All right.
And so it is, but again, you got to be in it to win it, so you got to first open your mind, and you have to do well. You can't go into the game and not do well. You got to do well, because by not doing well, you're now shutting yourself out of the other opportunities that may be afforded to you. And you never want to do that. So if you're going to come in, you got to make the most of that first 4 years, act like it's your last. And then you are then afforded other opportunities that can change your, and what they don't understand is, in that span of time, you could be influencing your family's future, who you're not even thinking about.
Absolutely. Hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot with this next question, but I get the sense, feel the energy that you're a brother that sort of reaches back as he climbs. You're climbing the ladder and you're reaching back at the same time. What are some opportunities that you afford to young people, coming up in law?
I've done it all my life. I've spent the last 21 years working with the National Black Law Students Association, where I've been training the young students while they're in law school to become, prosecutors, to become judges, to become department heads at various agencies across the nation. I've mentored, some have gone on to be state reps. I know one now, Mr. Marvin Pendarvis out of South Carolina. This year he was on the Biden bus. I mean, I felt like I was on the bus too. So and see, the kind of impact that he's having on his community. I'd like to say I had something to, some influence on that by showing him that, there is a better way, and the ability of the need for us to be excellent at what we do. I believe if you're excellent at what you do, people will pay you. You don't have to chase money down. Let money chase you, and don't always let money be the influence while you do something. One of the things I wanted to build this firm in is on character, not on focusing on money. And I believed if we're good at what we do, our reputation will rise accordingly. And that alone beats any website, any marketing scheme that even though I do like my website, but I remember in the first 2 years I operated, I didn't even have a website.
Is that right?
But I was still getting client referrals based on the quality of work. So now I try to train the younger ones, and that's what this whole firm is about, bringing up the rear. Because I do believe we have a responsibility. See, it's not enough to reach it. Now that you up here, we believe we've reached some level of success. All of the brothers, we have an obligation to reach back and make sure that we bring others up and then even push them ahead of us.
Absolutely.
That's our responsibility.
Absolutely. I like to say it's not only our right, but our responsibility to do exactly what you just said. Well, the hour's just about been well spent. Please share with us any thoughts or messages that you would like to send us off with.
I'm just encouraged. I'm encouraged that we are on the precipice of an opportunity to actually see real change in this country. I believe the ground has been broken after the George Floyd incident for our entire society to wake up and realize there's a large group of people who've never been included in the American dream. You know, the Constitution said one thing, but we've never fully lived up to it, where all men are created equal. And I believe the ground broke. Anytime you have a groundbreaking experience, it really encompasses all of us, black, brown, white, you know, that we can all recognize the shortcoming. It's not enough to say a problem exists. You first have to admit that there is a problem. So when you have a vice president or anyone that will come on and say that they don't believe systemic racism exists, well, that's a problem because you're part of the problem. You have to at least identify there is a problem. So I'm encouraged that there's enough. And I've seen superstars and movie stars come out and say they feel wrong, they feel bad, they didn't know. Okay, and I can excuse that. You know, it's easy. You know, when I saw the debate, you know, it's easy for Mr. Pence to say he didn't know or systemic racism didn't occur. What he should have looked to Kamala and said, I apologize. I could never, share your experience. You know, I can only imagine what you did just to even get here. That should have been his response. And then start talking about the different political positions. But how dare you even begin to say out of your mouth, you don't think, you know, systemic racism exists. The fact that she even had to become a prosecutor just to be on the stage with him. Come on. But anyway, that's for another hour. But I'm encouraged that I believe there's an opportunity for real change in this country, none that we've seen, and in fact, even greater than we saw in the 60s. And I think at this time, America has an opportunity to really do something great, even in the worst time that this country has ever seen. So I'm encouraged, I'm excited, and I'm believing in God that all things are possible through him.
Mr. Charles Tucker Esquire, I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate you being transparent, telling us a bit about your past. I appreciate the energy you brought to the conversation. Again, I'm just encouraged by knowing that there are brothers who know their role, know their responsibility, and who have not gotten to certain peaks and said, you know, look at me. This is such a beautiful air that I'm breathing. You know, the sun shines different on me, but understanding that the true glory comes when all of us, or a great number of us, are able to join, you know, one another at those peaks. We've been in the valleys together, but rising to those peaks together is something that we all should be looking forward to doing. And again, I feel confident that you hold that same or similar sight, and that you are, you know, making some moves and doing some good things, and making not only our people now, but our ancestors proud as well. So Mr. Tucker, I truly appreciate you.
Amen. And again, thank you for the opportunity. I definitely share your sentiment. I believe that's what we all have to do. We haven't arrived anywhere until we make sure that all of our people have an equal opportunity to have a seat at the table.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Again, I'm your host, Jamal Brown, aka Mr. Black 365, and you have listened to another rousing show of the Just to Freedom radio show. BlackHistoryUniversity.com is where you can find out more information about who we are and what we do, and we'll be seeing you soon. Peace.